Happy Tuesday, y'all, and welcome to an impromptu Greg Balls of Fire podcast. This is kind of going to be a catch-up, a makeup podcast, because we were here on Saturday for the Winged Eagle, and a lot has happened since Saturday afternoon. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to come clean up some of the news tidbits, some of the results, some of the goings-on in wrestling, clean that up tonight since I happen to be off on a Tuesday. I wanted to wait until NXT is finished, which it should be, unless for some reason tonight's a 3-hour show. I did not watch NXT. We're not even here to talk about NXT, but I wanted to wait until after that show was over before we came up here. According to Justin, NXT is doing an overrun, so that is still going on right now. If you guys are watching that, feel free to finish it up. No big deal. Didn't really have an eyeball on that, but I wanted to kind of catch up on last night's Raw. Plus, a lot of things happened this weekend with TNA Hard to Kill, Battle of the Belts, Collision. There's a lot of wrestling chatter to get into after last night's Raw with the Jinder and Seth match. Seth Rollins possibly, hopefully not, but possibly injured at the end of that match. We'll get some more information on that hopefully tomorrow. And a lot of Rumble discussion with Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre getting in each other's faces. Drew McIntyre and CM Punk got in each other's faces last week. Gunther has declared for the Rumble. We have Brock Lesnar rumors. So now things are kind of starting to maybe come together. And I think this year's Royal Rumble is going to be pretty fun. I mean, it was looking pretty predictable there with either a CM Punk or a Cody victory, but now you're tying in Drew McIntyre, who I think is doing great work right now. You tie in Brock, you tie in Gunther, you tie in whoever else. I mentioned on Saturday that I'm kind of predicting a Big E return. I would love, love, love that if that happened. So I think despite the fact that we might have an idea of what the plan is for Mania, WWE's really keeping all of their options open, I think, for the Royal Rumble and who could potentially win this thing. So we're going to have a lot of Rumble chatter and discussion here in this episode, like specifically what's Cody going to do, and is his story, finishing his story at WrestleMania, still possible? And if it is the path to that story or to the end and conclusion of that story through the Royal Rumble or through something like Elimination Chamber? I still feel like he's going to do it, but WWE's got some options on how they execute it. So we'll be talking about that a lot. And like I said, I want to talk about some of the cool things going on outside of WWE. Jack Perry showing up in New Japan and tearing up his AEW contract. We'll get into that. We'll talk about Nick Nemeth showing up in TNA right after he also showed up in New Japan. We had Dana Brooke showing up in TNA as well. Sasha and Mercedes hanging out. Sasha and Bayley hanging out in the balcony like the fucking Muppets up there watching TNA Hard to Kill, likely watching their homie Naomi, drop her title because word is she is heading back to WWE as well. So it's going to kind of be a hangout, pretty casual. I don't have like 2.5 hours of notes or nothing like that. I just want to talk a little bit about last night's Raw, see how you guys are doing, hang out here on a random Tuesday with very, very little, pre-warning that I was going to do this. Today. I thought about it a couple hours ago. Oh, we should do a podcast tonight. And then I made some notes and threw up the link just like an hour ago. So if the audience is light tonight, I'm not going to freak out because nobody knows I'm even fucking here. So do me a favor, though. Smash that thumbs up button. As always, make sure you are a subscriber as we are trying to now get to our next milestone of 50,000 subscribers. We'll be at 41K here in just a few days, most likely. And we will be moving on to the big 5-0. You know what I mean? So that is pretty much what's on tap tonight. Just going to kind of hang out, talk about Raw, talk about what we saw, talk about WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, and anything else you guys want to discuss. I do have some wrestling news as well. Where's my news? We'll talk about Hulk Hogan, who rescued somebody from a car, apparently, yesterday. There it is. I was like, I almost lost it. And we might have some other tidbits. Somebody brought up to me today on Twitter about Dark Side of the Ring, which I believe will be season 5 that's been renewed. So it's going to start in March. Vice probably knows what episodes they're going to do, but they haven't listed anything yet. So we'll talk about maybe some possibilities there. And anything else you guys want to get into, we will hit it. So anyway, cheers to you. Happy Tuesday. This feels very weird to be here on a Tuesday night. I don't think I've ever been here on a Tuesday night before. So we'll see how it goes. Let me say hello to everybody in the chat. How Wheezy? Good to see you, my friend. And Max Pokebra as well. We got Jay Lambo in the house. We also have Mike Rouse, Sonic Plays, and who else in the member area? That's it for the members. Andy Linnell is here as well. Viper, Shell Shock, Justin, Rodrigo. We have Mohammed in the house. David Brown is here as well. And yeah, good to see you guys. Thanks for being here on this Tuesday evening. Let me just give this a refresh so I have all my comments and all of that here ready to rock. Okay, there we go. I am doing pretty good on that. I'm ready to get into our festivities here. I don't really know where to start. I was thinking about maybe starting with some wrestling news. Now, this is going to tie into what we talk about on Raw here in just a few minutes, but it is being reported, I believe it was Dave Meltzer who mentioned it this week, that the belief is that Brock Lesnar is on his way back to the company and will probably be at the Royal Rumble, likely to set up a match at WrestleMania. I can't really say that news or that report or that rumor is really that surprising. I think a lot of us have felt that Brock probably could show up at the Rumble or could work a WrestleMania match. I mean, if he went through the trouble to work with Omos last year, why wouldn't he work with somebody this year? You know what I mean? And one person that's been on our radars all year long as a potential opponent for Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania is the mighty, mighty Gunther. So Gunther has also declared for the Royal Rumble. He was on Raw last night. He returned, cut a promo, which we'll talk about in a minute, but I think he was already declared for the Rumble prior to last night, right? I think he might have declared on Friday, or I think SmackDown is when I thought I saw a lot of tweets about him declaring. So Gunther's going to be in the Rumble, and we talked about Gunther all year and what he could do in the Rumble. Of course, did he come in at number 1 last year, lasted all the way to the end and got tossed out, or was he come in later than 1? I forgot. All I know is Gunther was there in the end with Cody, and Cody came in last at number 30 and won the whole thing, went on to WrestleMania, of course, to lose. So it feels like if you wanted to kind of invert that, you'd have Cody come in at number 1, lose the Royal Rumble, but then win the main event. Just reverse everything you did last year. And I think Cody not winning the Rumble is probably the best story there for him to get that match with Roman Reigns some other way. So Brock Lesnar coming in and Gunther also being in the Rumble. I've been wondering about Gunther all year. If WWE wasn't so heavy at the top with all the top contenders right now, with the Codys and the Punks and all that stuff, I'd be ready to pull the trigger on Gunther now. As a matter of fact, I do think Gunther will be a champion in 2024. I just don't think Gunther is going to be a win the Royal Rumble and challenge for the title at WrestleMania type of guy this year, only because it's pretty crowded up there. And, you know, I just don't know if it would be time for him. It might be a SummerSlam type of thing for him, which is not bad. A lot of guys got their first big wins at SummerSlam, including the guy he could potentially beat at WrestleMania, Brock Lesnar, who was made at that show when he beat The Rock back in 2002. So maybe Gunther's more of a SummerSlam idea. So if you're going to put Gunther in the Rumble, but he's also not going to win it, I don't know if you necessarily want to have Cody eliminate him again. The best way to eliminate a monster or a beast like Gunther is to have whoever he's going to face at WrestleMania do it, or perhaps he do it to them. So if Brock Lesnar is going to be in the Rumble and Gunther's going to be in the Rumble, I think that's your match. I think one of them eliminates the other. I think if Gunther faces Brock, one thing I've been worried about that potential match. We've talked about it all year. I said, if Gunther faces Brock Lesnar, I find it hard to believe that Brock's just going to come back in, lose another match, and then leave. You know, he's been doing that a lot. Brock has reached the point in his career now where he's putting over Roman, putting over Cody, putting over everybody else, which is great because, you know, he was kicking ass for a lot of years there and he did a lot of dominance. And I said even back then, just like I'm saying about Roman Reigns now, you might be fed up, sick of Brock, and he's never here, blah, blah, blah. He wins all the time. Just wait. He will get to a time in his career where he's going to be putting other guys over, just like John Cena did, and just like Roman Reigns will do in the future, even though it doesn't feel like that now. So Brock coming in and just losing to Gunther, I don't know. Maybe you can do more with them than just a WrestleMania match, and that's it. I think that would be more fun. So I kind of think if Gunther isn't going to be the one to win the Royal Rumble because WWE already has plans for what they want to do with that, you have to find a way to eliminate Gunther. You don't want fucking Tozawa to do it. It's got to be somebody badass. So if Lesnar eliminates Gunther and then maybe they work a whole program leading up to Mania or something, maybe you put them both in the chamber and they cancel each other out in the chamber match or something. I don't fucking know. And you book that match for WrestleMania, but just do it more than just bringing Brock in to pay him a bunch of money to get somebody else over or put somebody else over or to lose to somebody else. And you have to wonder with Gunther still being the Intercontinental Champion, if that's going to tie in, because to the best of my knowledge, Brock Lesnar never won the Intercontinental title, did he? I don't think he won any underneath title in the company ever, did he? Help me out with that. Is my math right on that? Or is my facts straight? Brock Lesnar has never won a championship other than the world title. Right? That's got to be right. It's got to be right. Feels like it's right. So maybe he could win the IC title. Maybe he's the only guy credible enough to take the title off of Gunther, although I still want Chad Gable to do it. And I think the best place for Chad Gable to do it is either in Australia or at Backlash in France. I think that would be great. It'd be such a great fucking match, especially in France, my God. But I don't know. I don't know what the future is for Gunther, but it does look like now with the news of Brock Lesnar probably turning back up, what else is he going to do? What else is Gunther or Brock going to do? The only thing I would like to see for Gunther, perhaps, is maybe rekindle his feud with Chad Gable and do a big WrestleMania Intercontinental title change that we didn't see last year, but Gunther was so damn dominant, I kind of want to see him keep running. I've been saying for over a year, I've been saying since last January when we started talking about Gunther, I said, people were talking about him losing the title at WrestleMania. I think I predicted Sheamus to beat him for the title or something like that. And I even said, I'm like, if Gunther's going to be a title contender this year or maybe even next year, there's no rule that says he has to drop the Intercontinental title to contend for the world title. No. If nobody's beating him, he can just contend for the world title while he's Intercontinental champion. They've done it before plenty of times, most notably all the way back at WrestleMania 6 when Hogan Warrior went one-on-one. So I think it would be almost more fun if Gunther was undefeated going into that match. If he was undefeated, still Intercontinental champion, now the company has no choice but to give him a title match. And that could be Cody and Gunther at SummerSlam. I mean, Gunther could beat Cody at SummerSlam. Cody's run could just be short. Who knows? Cody or Gunther could go after Seth's title, Punk's title. Who knows? I feel like in 2024, Gunther is going to be a world champion. But what he does with Brock, what he does with the Intercontinental title, that's still way up in the air. But it feels like Brock and Gunther is probably what they're going to do, which I don't hate at all. I think that's going to be badass. I just hope it's a little bit more than Brock just coming in, kind of like how he did with Cody, to be honest, even though there was a series of matches there. Part of me wonders if Brock needs to beat Gunther in one of these, because otherwise Brock's just getting to the point where every time he comes back, it's predictable. Oh, they're just calling on him to use his name to as a springboard to get someone else over. And at some point he's going to have to win a match. He's lost a lot of fucking matches. Anybody got Brock's record in the last 3 years? Probably isn't good. So, I mean, at some point he's going to have to win again. And I don't know. So maybe shit. I mean, could he be involved in a Brock Lesnar and Chad Gable match similar to what Goldberg did to Brock at No Way Out for Eddie Guerrero? Maybe it's a situation like that where Brock is now the one maybe taunting Gunther or wants a match against him, and he's starting to sit at ringside, and then Gunther is going to face Chad Gable at the Elimination Chamber or something for the Intercontinental title one more time, and Brock is there at ringside sitting down distracting Gunther or whatever. Maybe there's a ref bump and Brock gets in the ring, boom, F5 to Gunther, and Gable's able to win the title that way. That might be a cheap win, but Eddie Guerrero's win got over. He was jumping into the crowd, and we still look back at that match as one of the best moments ever in wrestling, even though Eddie Guerrero needed a lot of help to get that done. It'd be the same thing with Chad Gable. Might make for a good moment, protect Gunther, keep him strong, give Brock a moment. If Brock eliminates Gunther in the Rumble, then cost Gunther the Intercontinental title, that would make me feel a little bit better about Brock losing and putting over Gunther at WrestleMania, knowing that Brock had some moments on Gunther as well. Maybe Brock gets the best of him in the contract signing, or maybe every time, perhaps maybe they could really do something fun to where every time Gunther and Brock were on TV together building their match and things got physical, Brock gets the best of him every time. Where the announcers are like, man, that's got to be getting in the back of Gunther's head a little bit. Every time he's mixed it up with Brock, Brock's had an answer for him, and Gunther's had to retreat. He's not landed a single punch on Brock Lesnar yet. Who has ever been that dominant over Gunther? Who's been able to reduce Gunther to that? Nobody ever has. So maybe if you just build up Brock, strong in the build to where he's getting the best of Gunther every time, and then Gunther beats him at Mania, maybe that's a better way to set the whole thing up. But if it's going to be Brock and Gunther, hey, I'm all for it. The only other possibility I could see If it's not Brock Lesnar and Gunther, again, we're going to talk about Raw in a minute, but last night on Raw, you also saw what went on with Xavier Woods. Gunther and Kaiser were in the ring, and Gunther's showing love to Kaiser or something, and then Xavier Woods comes out. Xavier's been a lot more aggressive lately. He's challenging Kaiser to a match because Kaiser took out Kofi last week on that stair spot or whatever, and so Xavier and Kaiser have their match, and there's a post-match brawl there and a backstage brawl with Jey Uso coming in to kind of step in when Xavier got jumped. So Xavier and Kofi are both getting beaten up by Imperium members. What if there's 5 men in the ring in the Royal Rumble? It's Xavier, it's Kofi, it's Vinci, it's Ludwig, and it's Gunther. Clock starts ticking down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You know what I'm saying, right? The big guy, Big E with the big sexy pecs. He's out, he's back, he returns. Edge in 2020 level emotion from the fans. That CM Punk guy that was crying in the crowd, 70,000 people doing that. I'd be doing it right here. We're going to be watching that together, by the way. Royal Rumble watch party, Greg's house. So be here. And if that happened, that would be pretty damn awesome. So since Kofi and Xavier are kind of involved with Imperium right now, it makes me wonder if they are setting up for a Big E return at the Royal Rumble, and then maybe you get Big E and Gunther for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania. You could also do that, but I feel like it's going to be Brock. But let's say hypothetically it is that. It's Big E returns and he faces Gunther. Well, then what the fuck does Brock do at WrestleMania? Do you guys think Brock Lesnar has an opponent at WrestleMania other than Gunther? Who would you really like to see him go against at this point, I mean, on either brand, really. So I don't really know what you do with Brock. I feel like Gunther's the best match to do because we already got a tease of that last year. Fans have been talking about it for over a year now. And I feel like that should be the match for Mania. But you never know. Maybe Big E coming back would be pretty damn sweet. Ryan Adams says Brock is 7-8 in the past 3 years. That's better than I thought. Still a losing record, but I thought he might have lost more than that. Oh, yeah, there you go. Oh, Bash at Berlin. I forgot. Bash at Berlin would be a good spot for Gunther to win the title. That's why I just don't feel like WrestleMania would really be in the cards for Gunther yet, just like I don't know if it's really in the cards for, Damian Priest maybe. But Gunther, I feel like they can wait because they have a lot of other shows on the calendar, a lot of big shows, and some of those are international shows. And if you get the right setting, the right moment, you pull the trigger there, it could be quite the moment. Maybe what Drew McIntyre was not able to do at Clash at the Castle, Gunther is able to do at Bash at Berlin. So that would be fucking sweet. Maybe Brock against Braun Breaker, Rodrigo. I just don't see it. I don't see a Braun Breaker call-up unless he shows up in the Rumble. I guess that would be one way to do it. If Braun Breaker is in the Rumble, and there's a face-off with Brock, and there's a thing, and Braun Breaker eliminates Brock. Yeah, you might. I mean, I originally wanted to shoot that down, Rodrigo, but you might be onto something there. Using Brock to get somebody else over, I feel like Gunther is so dominant and so magnificent. I almost feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, or let me know if you disagree with this. I feel like Gunther is already strong enough. It's almost as if he doesn't need the victory over Brock to make him, because he's already made all of the fans a believer. I sure as fuck am. I love Gunther. That dude is world champion ready, in my opinion. He doesn't need the victory over Brock to really get him to that next level because he's already there, in my opinion. So maybe somebody else you could use Brock to get over would be somebody like Braun Breaker. And maybe Rodrigo is not wrong on that. You get Braun Breaker and Brock in the ring. And again, I don't know what Braun Breaker's doing on NXT right now. He might be embroiled in a huge feud that doesn't seem like it, or doesn't feel like it might be ending soon. If he's in the middle of something, then I don't know. But if Braun Breaker's kind of like not doing anything right now in NXT, shit, you put him in the Rumble, he eliminates Brock, and then you get their little feud, and but then Braun Breaker is on the main roster booking and building a Mania match against the most dominant fighter in WWE history. That's a big stage for him. Many people feel that Braun Breaker is totally ready for the main roster, but that's an awfully big match to do. You know what I mean? But you could be right. You could be right. I wouldn't rule it out. That's for sure. Trekopedia reports we should hear the results of Seth's test on his injury tomorrow or Thursday. Hope he's okay. Doesn't have to vacate the belt. Yeah, exactly. Seth might have been a little bit dinged up in his match last night. We're all holding out hope for the best here. He was limping a bit. It looked like more selling to me, but then the reports came out that after the match, he was shown being helped to the back. So hopefully there's no tear or anything that would require surgery and any sort of long-term absence. Hopefully he's not injured at all. And if he is, since it's only mid-January, and we were speculating what Seth Rollins was going to do at the Rumble anyway, and it's really feeling like he's not going to do anything. I don't even think WWE has plans to book him in a match, so he might be off this pay-per-view anyway. You keep him off the chamber, keep him out of the ring. He might be able to get himself in shape just like he did for that Triple H match a few years ago. Remember, he was hurt going into that, and he got himself ready for it. So if there's a way to still get the Punk and Rollins match or whatever, hopefully they do. It would be so shitty if we hear tomorrow or the next day that Seth Rollins is seriously hurt. Cora Jade, her injury did come back, I think, is a torn ACL, so she'll be out for some time, which totally sucks. And if that happened to Seth, that would be absolutely heartbreaking. The one saving grace is that WWE has so much going on at the top right now. I don't think that WrestleMania would suffer too bad without Rollins because you have so many other things to make up for it. But that Rollins story and the run he's been on with that title all year, you really want to see that be seen through. And if Seth Rollins is injured or something and I'm WWE, I would keep it quiet and I would do a Damian Priest cash in to try to keep the ball rolling. I don't want no vacate, nothing like that. If Rollins is okay enough to get a little bit physical in the ring, I would have Priest come out and attack him and cash in. I would do that before I'd vacate the belt. You know what I mean? Because even in kayfabe, if Seth Rollins is coming out there and his knee he's got a torn ACL, he's on crutches and he's vacating the title, why wouldn't Damian Priest come out? That's probably what they need to do. If Seth is injured, I would come out to vacate the title and then have Priest just cash in on him instead. And then Priest is champion, and then who knows what you can do. But you still got Punk sitting there. So let's just keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best on that, because Seth Rollins missing WrestleMania almost seems like it isn't an option. He's got to be there. So he's had too good of a year, Hopefully everything will be all right with Seth Rollins, but we'll talk about Raw here in just a little minute, in just a little bit, excuse me. We didn't really mention on Saturday because we came up here prior to Collision, Battle of the Belts, and TNA Hard to Kill. We finished right before all those shows went live. Now, on New Japan, there was also Battle in the Valley. It was in San Jose Saturday night as well for New Japan, and that's the show where Jack Perry showed up. He showed up and attacked Shota Umino, I believe, or Umino. Shota Umino, forgot how to say that name. Attacked him. He's got a bigger beard now. He got in the ring. He's got what appeared to be an AEW contract, and he tore it up. He was wearing an armband that said Scapegoat, and then he said something into the camera that sounded like or appeared to be you can't pick up the phone or something like that. So it looked like, sounded like, appeared as if he was referencing Tony Khan, like, oh, I've been calling you and you can't answer my phone call, so now I'm just going to go do my own thing. Tears up his contract, which I guess essentially means he quits AEW, but I'm not sure if Jack Perry's aware. You can tear up all the contracts you want, doesn't invalidate them. So he's tearing it up, and I honestly think that this is one of the best things they could have done with him, because it plays into the whole deal. I was wondering how they were just going to bring him back to AEW TV and not mention anything. So this way they're kind of leaning into it a little bit. They're keeping him away from AEW, maybe in New Japan. Now, granted, this could just be his return, and he's on Dynamite this week, doing something in the back, sitting in the crowd or whatever. But I feel like he should stay in New Japan for a while, maybe even like a half a year, 6 months to a year from now, and see if he can generate any buzz with this new side of his character, and however they want to tie in his situation into this character and how it's presented, because AEW's in a tight spot where they can't really come out and directly talk about the brawl-in situation in CM Punk, but I think also most fans are going to know, or most fans know what went on there, and if you have Jack Perry portraying a character that feels like he's been done wrong or some way or has some axe to grind with AEW, it could be interesting. And maybe this is where he can find a way to, really evolve his character more and spread his wings a bit more. He was getting there a little bit with the heel persona before in AEW, but it wasn't connecting that well with me. I still thought it had potential and all of that, but wasn't totally loving it. This might be something that he needs because, the brawl in, the Punk situation and AEW situation is still very, very highly contested amongst fans. So putting Jack Perry right back out on Dynamite or Rampage or Collision, might generate too much more ugliness that we already see enough of online with everybody's bullshit. So maybe now in New Japan, he can maybe get himself over this, more like edgy, darker side character for him. And when he does reappear in AEW, maybe he's a little bit more interesting, or he has some of the better kind of heat that you want. Not the go away heat, but the heat that people actually, that wrestlers actually crave. And Jack Perry might be able to get himself over as that douche in New Japan if he sticks around there a little bit longer or works some appearances. I mean, if he attacks Shota, I would imagine that's going to be a match, right? And there is a big show in Chicago coming up in a couple of months that's going to have that Mustafa Ali challenge Tanahashi, right? That one. So that's probably going to take place on that show, I would think. So if that's the case, I would keep Jack Perry there and off of AEW TV for as long as possible to see if he can generate any buzz or get some attention for this character before bringing him back. It's probably the best use for him. I actually think it's a really smart move. If you're AEW or Tony Khan or Jack Perry, knowing what you're probably going to face when he does come back to TV, just send him to New Japan to work over there for a while. I actually like it. I like it, and I'm intrigued to see how it develops, because if Jack Perry were just to show back up in AEW, I'm not sure how intrigued I would have been. This is way more intriguing to me, because of, the scapegoat and the tearing up the contract. I'm like, oh, okay, he's going to be that character, and I want to see more. It makes me want to see more. If he would have came back to AEW, or if he would have been involved in that devil storyline, or if he would have been the devil, God forbid, I'm not sure if I would have given a shit at all, really, to be honest. So this is something that at least raised my eyebrow. I'm like, oh, okay, I could check that out and see how that goes. Not sure. I'm not saying it's going to work or be a great angle or great character or even a success, but I'm willing to check it out, see how it goes. So best of luck now that Jack Perry is back. Let's see what kind of an asshole he can be. He wasn't the only guy making debuts. Nick Nemeth, who also showed up at Wrestle Kingdom in New Japan to set up some potential matches there with Dave Finlay. He also showed up at the very end of TNA Hard to Kill on Saturday. And congrats to TNA, who have now rebranded back to TNA and had their, their highest gate in about 10 years at Hard to Kill. They had a nice little theater there. I loved the venue setting for that. It was more like a stage, so all the fans are kind of on one side. We saw Sasha Banks or Mercedes Moné and Bayley up in the balcony. A picture of them was revealed from the live audience, probably there showing love to Trinity, who dropped her TNA title to Jordynne Grace. And there has been talks and rumors that Trinity is heading back to WWE. So that seems pretty likely if she's got a WWE girl there backing her up, showing her support, and she's dropping the title. Sounds like she's going to be heading out of TNA and heading back to WWE after she walked out. And she'll be back there with her family, and we'll see, if they're going to put, if she's going to be back to being Naomi. I guess she probably will. And if they will put her back as a single star, or maybe if they'll chuck her in that bloodline. We don't really know yet, but that was cool. We also saw Dana Brooke debut for TNA. She's going to be known now as Ash by Elegance. And she was kind of like in this evening gown. She had these big ass heels on. And a lot of people were like, she's ripping off Toni Storm. I'm like, is that really a ripoff because she's in an evening gown? We've seen this gimmick 1,000 times. I think this gimmick is more like Emelina or Eva Marie or what other women came out in evening gowns? People like that, even Taya Valkyrie to a degree, maybe. I feel like she's more like them than Toni Storm, because I don't think is Dana Brooke trying to pretend that she's living in the 40s or something like that? If she is, then okay, maybe it's a little bit of a ripoff, but no more than anything we've seen in wrestling. The main event of WrestleMania 20, Chris Benoit celebrated. He was a huge, complete, total fucking ripoff of the Dynamite Kid, all the way down to his body style, his mannerisms, the way he looked, the way he walked, everything. Wasn't just a ripoff, or he wasn't inspired or influenced by. He was directly trying to copy it. So I don't think that's what Dana Brooke is really doing here. She is doing a gimmick in women's wrestling that we have seen, but Toni Storm wouldn't have been the first person that came to mind. Emelina or Eva Marie or somebody like that would have been the first woman to come to mind if I was making comparisons there. So Dana Brooke worked her ass off for over a decade in WWE, really never found her footing or her niche, or never really got over or became a big star or won any titles or anything like that other than 24/7, I believe. But everything we've always heard about her has been positive. So we want to wish Dana Brooke, or Ash by Elegance. I don't get the name really, Ash by Elegance. First name Ash, middle name middle name by, last name Elegance. I don't know. Ash by Elegance. We wish her the best. We'll see what TNA does with that. And we also saw in the main event, it was Moose defeating Alex Shelley to win the TNA title. And that's when, after the match, he was attacked from behind by Nick Nemeth, who took him out and ran through the crowd and tore off his shirt to reveal a TNA shirt underneath. So now Nick Nemeth is TNA, and he's also New Japan, and that's just all kinds of fucking cool. And at some point, Nick Nemeth will find his way into the AEW universe as well, and you like to see that between Nick Nemeth and Mustafa Ali already booking his world tour. A lot of great appearances for him coming up, and TNA holding a pay-per-view that had some success, had a good-looking house. They're trying, and I just think that's good. I was happy with what I saw this weekend from TNA and from New Japan because of some of the faces we saw turn up. It was exciting, and wishing them fools over there at TNA all the best. All the best. Hope they keep it moving, man. They are still hanging in there. Shout out to Paul Walter Hauser, who I only know as Stingray from Cobra Kai, which is one of my favorite shows. But he's been in some other shows, and he won an Emmy last night. The Emmys were also last night as well. Or were they Sunday night? I forgot. But he won an Emmy for whatever show he's on. And in his acceptance speech, which, by the way, was a rap, he rapped his acceptance speech. He shouted out Kota Ibushi and Matt Cardona. That was not on my bingo card here in a Kota Ibushi and Matt Cardona shout out at the Emmys. Crazy. So happy that he won that. Seems like a fun dude. He was actually at the Dynamite in LA that I went to back in January. They brought him in the ring to do something on Rampage or something at the Kia Forum. So I actually have seen this dude live and in person before, and he was a trip as Stingray on Cobra Kai, and I'm ready for season 6. That's for show. Admitted racist Hulk Hogan had an act of heroism yesterday. He saved, apparently, a teenager from an overturned car. Here's a report from the Associated Press earlier today, and I quote, "Retired wrestler Hulk Hogan and a friend rescued a teenage girl who was trapped in an overturned vehicle after a crash in Florida, according to Hogan's social media posts." This is according to Hogan, not the police, but there were pictures of a car, Hogan out there with his NWO shirt on. So even though Hogan likes to lie, he might actually be telling the truth this time. Hogan said on the social media platform that he used a ballpoint pen to puncture the car's airbag and free the girl after witnessing the accident Sunday night in Tampa. His new wife, yoga instructor Sky Daly, took to Facebook to praise the quick action taken by her 70-year-old husband and the couple's friend, Jake Rask. So good on Hogan. What did that look like? Hogan, was he waddling over there? I mean, Hogan does not look like he's very mobile or limber. I can't see this guy jumping out of a car, running, diving underneath an overturned car to pull somebody out. I'm guessing his friend must have done all the work. And the ballpoint pen to pop the airbag, is that what happens? I just totaled my car a year ago. My airbag's deployed, but they didn't stay all ballooned up. They flattened out. I was able to get out of my car just fine. So I'm surprised that you would need something to pop it, but I'm not saying he's lying, but Hogan does tend to embellish things. And, maybe overstate the truths a little bit. But either way, Hogan helping rescue somebody from an overturned car is very cool. So Hulkster, good on you. Apparently this girl was okay, a little shaken up, no serious injuries. Apparently she flipped her car and walked away mostly unscathed, which is excellent news. And I guess props to Hogan and his friend for pulling that girl out. Yeah, so there you go. Might not be a huge fan of Hogan, and I'm not. Don't like him at all. But when you save someone from an overturned car, you get a day pass to not be shit on by me. How about that? Let's talk about the only thing I want to mention is just somebody mentioned this to me on Twitter today, so I wrote it down. But I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about it. So this is where I'm going to call on all of you for help. I'll pull up the tweet. I don't remember who it was from, but hey, good mic work. Did you hear? Dark Side of the Ring is renewed for a 5th season. What episodes would you like to see? I don't know. I can barely remember the ones I've already done. But what is left? There's a bunch they could do, but there's also a bunch that I'm not sure if they could even make an episode on. Like if you pick things that are too far back, a lot of people are going to be dead. Or maybe not around to talk about it because all the big scandals we've done the Benoits and the Eddies and the plane ride from Hells and I think we did the screw job. I can't remember, or I think they did. So, now you're just back to, you're back to the suicides. You're back to Test or Lance Cade or Ashley Mazzaro or Crash Holly. You can do the Ring Boy scandal, but everybody from that's dead too. Even Randy Orton's uncle Barry O, I think, passed away just a couple of years ago, and he was right at the center of that. So, like, who are you even interview for that? You guys got any other ideas? The wrestler suicides one is what I thought about today. I thought about like Lance Cade, Crash Holly, Ashley Mazzaro, Daphne. But again, I don't know if one of them individually would make a good episode. I'm almost wondering if like you do a kind of a group of them, that kind of had similar or extremely sad type of circumstances. And we all kind of watched the Daphne thing unfold together. I watched that video she posted like 2 minutes after she posted it. Said, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And I think everybody started panicking and, tried to get there, and they didn't get there in time. So a lot of that stuff's very dark. But again, an entire episode, was Ashley Mazzaro or Daphne or Lance Cade's career long enough to warrant a whole episode? I'd probably say no. So I might, it might have to be, a group thing to where, there's been an unusual amount of suicides. There was a guy for Ring of Honor, Sweeney, hung himself from the ring post at his wrestling school. It's been some fucked up shit, man. So there's lots you could do, but it's like, I don't know if I want to see that, to be honest. So what else do you think they could do? Well, they did Sonny Rodrigo. I think they did Chris and Tammy last year. Did they not? Was it last season or the year before? And that sucks. They should have waited, right? Because I think Chris and Tammy must have been season 4. That might have been like the first episode. If they would have waited here, they could have tied in and added what the hopeful final chapter is there. And that's Tammy Sitch being sent up the river for damn near 2 decades. And they could have put that in there, but they've already done her. Vince McMahon, Rick Rude, the end of WCW. Those are good ones. Rick Rude, again, another just extremely young death. Did they do Kurt Hennig? Was Kurt Hennig a Dark Side of the Ring? Because his shit's pretty dark. The Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view. Yeah, you could. Absolutely. We're still yet to do a review on that ourselves. We should do that one of these days. Solid Monster said on his podcast it was too bad they hadn't waited a year. Oh, maybe are you talking about the Candido and Sonny? Yeah, that's what I just said. I'm like, yeah, if they would have done that one this time around, they could have added they could have had the court room drama and the footage from that and everything. But there's definitely, I'm not saying that Dark Side of the Ring has lost ideas, or there's not enough material to still make another season. There is, but I think, a lot of the big ones they've already knocked out. And plus, with Vince McMahon, that might have to be, they've already done the 9 lives of Vince McMahon. We've done some documentaries on him, but maybe a total fucking hit piece might be after he's passed away. I'm not sure. Because who who that is really close with him still is going to even want to be a part of that one. It's going to be former colleagues of his and stuff. So I don't know. JBL being a bully, ECW Dark Side of the Ring, Arn Anderson and Sid Scissors thing. Yeah, see, that's the thing. I don't know, Max, what qualifies for a Dark Side of the Ring, because sometimes when you think about an idea for Dark Side, you're thinking about it like an incident. And the Arn Sid Scissors thing was just an incident. It was just a fight. It would be no different than the Dan Spivey and Adrian Adonis fight. Although I think they talked about that, right? They did the Adrian Adonis one last year too. So I'm not sure if you can do a whole episode on like one specific fight, because if you did, I'd probably want to do Dynamite and Jacques Rougeau or something like that. So you do have lots of like individual fights, but I don't know if that would really warrant an entire episode, because the Arn and Sid Scissors fight was just alcohol fueled. That was it. It's not like this built up for years of animosity between the two guys, and they've already had issues, and one of them fucked the other one's wife, and then it led to them stabbing each other with scissors. None of that went on. It was just two drunk idiots stabbing each other with scissors. So I don't know. Victory Road, Jeff Hardy. There you go. Jeff Hardy, Teddy Hart, Luna Vachon. Did we do Luna? We did Luna. Luna was done. Dark Side on Kevin Dunn. No, nobody's going to do that. Yo, Mike Witt. Mike Witt's sitting there with no channel member icon, but he is a channel member. He's a juicy, juicy channel member. Mike, always good to see you. Yeah, of course, you want Greg Gagne, Dark Side of the Ring, although he's not that dark. Dude's still alive. He's had no crazy tragedy in his life. Vern might be a good episode, because Vern had a crazy end, even killed a man when he was like 90 years old. So, but still, Greg Gagne, I don't even know what you'd talk about. He's just a Minnesotan dude that just is from Minnesota. I think that's all he does. Ana Kimura, yeah. She'd be another one I think that might be in there with like Daphne and Ashley Mazzaro, and and her situation was different. Her suicide was more due to like, I think, bullying and stuff, where I think Daphne was just in a dark place. Ashley's might have been a little bit more, drug related. Don't really know, but it just sucks when you think about, we think about all the suicides that we've had in wrestling. It's too fucking many, man. Muhammad Ali versus Inoki, maybe. That's not that dark, though. That's not that dark. That match was more funny than anything else, with Inoki just laying on his back trying to kick him. I'm not sure if we can do a whole episode on that, but you definitely do something on it. Yeah, Muhammad. Well, that's going to be coming years later, the brawl out and all that stuff. Yeah, I know he's a high flyer, Mike. I know that. I already know that, Mike. Vader, maybe. Vader didn't have that dark of a life, though. Vader wasn't really a drug addict or had too many personal issues. But there's still lots of, somebody like Ray Traylor. I don't think we ever did one on Ray Traylor. Or maybe some wrestlers, they got sick and died of, a tragedy that way, instead of just offing themselves or letting drugs take their life. Maybe it was, something out of their control that did it, like car accidents, Joey Morella, things like that. So I don't know. But it does. Mike Awesome, that's another good one. Mike Awesome is a good one. Although, again, I almost feel like I'd want one on test before Mike Awesome. I feel like Mike Awesome didn't have quite a career big enough. Maybe for a whole lot. That's why I think maybe Mike Awesome should be in there with some of those others that had similar endings to him. Jay Lambo, they did Eddie. Eddie was done, I believe, right? I think we did the Eddie Guerrero, or they did Eddie Guerrero, from what I remember. Collision in Korea, they did one on that. So there are some, if you guys have made some great suggestions here. So my fear was that, do they really have any ideas? But they do. You guys brought up a lot of great ones. Muhammad, again with that, that's just all that is there is an incident. You wouldn't be able to make a 1-hour documentary on Chris Jericho and Brock Lesnar's yelling match after SummerSlam. It wouldn't work. It would not work. Kurt Angle, he had I remember right before I started doing YouTube thinking Kurt Angle was going to die, or maybe right around the same time when he was really dealing with his issues. I was like, he's going to die. He's going to die. Scott Hall's a good one. Jim Cornette, I don't think would even be that dark of a dark side of the ring. I mean, he's just an angry, yelling, screaming fucking maniac. filled to the brim with hate. But, he hasn't really had that tragic of a story, like he lives a good life, seems to enjoy himself. He's got a house full of wrestling memorabilia. He's married. He doesn't seem like he's a drinker or a drug doer. He's never beat his wife or anything like that. So I don't really know what you could do on Jim Cornette, because he did have a great wrestling managerial career. I think he's one of the best ever. The only thing really dark about him now is the fact that he makes money off of hate. And I don't think that you can really do a whole episode on that. Same thing with Russo and Bischoff and all of that. They're assholes, but they're not. Maybe, Bischoff, no, but maybe Russo, because he's so fucking pathetic. But I don't know if any of those would really make good ones. Anyway, Dark Side of the Ring will be returning this March, which is really, really soon, which means they're probably in post right now. So they've already got episodes done, or they're at the very least in production. So it's got to be leaked. Who knows these people? Somebody DM one of them producers and say, what are the episodes this year? I feel like if it's coming out in March, we should know what episodes they're going to do soon, like super soon, right? Let's talk about last night's WWE Monday Night Raw. I missed the entire show. I had my sister and my brother-in-law and my little niece over for dinner. We hung out, and they left about 5 minutes before Raw ended. So I was downstairs cleaning up. I'm like, oh shit. I run up here to try to see if I can catch the end of the match, and I just missed it. So I had no idea what happened in the Seth Rollins match. I went right to Twitter. Looked like he retained. I just didn't see how. And one of the first things I noticed with some of the clips I was watching on Raw last night was that the set looked weird. And I'm like, they debuted a new set and didn't tell anybody? It looked a little minimalist. It had like a couple of trusses there, like those pillars, those contraptions that they have set up. And it looked more like almost like a house show setup. And I was like, I wonder what the hell that's about. And I was also wondering, because the first thing that came to my mind, when I saw that, was how we've seen WWE try some different production techniques recently with the Caden and the other one at the nightclub with Piper and Chelsea, and the Tyler Bate and the Peter Dune, a little coffee conversation. And I'm like, maybe this is part of the post Kevin Dunn era in WWE. Maybe they're going to give us a new set, or maybe Kevin Dunn didn't like the metal things there. He didn't like the way they looked, and now that he's gone, they're like, we're doing it. Turns out, I think it was just the weather that was the cause. I think the WWE production crew had difficulty getting to the arena. At least that's the belief. And that's why they did not have the same looking set. So maybe they had some other shit with them, and that's just what they came up with. But they had those two kind of like, almost like pillars on each side of the entranceway there. That WWE setup these days have been a lot cleaner than that. Back in the old Attitude Era Monday Night Raws, they would have those things on each side of the Titantron with a little WWF banner. But in recent sets, it's been a lot more clean. It's been like all LED screens where you don't see a lot of the metal stuff. So the fact that that was there was like, that's weird. And come to find out, it's probably temporary and not a permanent change. So good on them for being able to come up with something for Raw last night, which I believe they were in Little Rock. So that was 2 back-to-back shows in Arkansas. That sucks. Clyde Wendell Slater, if you're here, you're the only person I know from Arkansas. So sorry for shitting on it. But it does not sound like a fun place to visit. And it was cold as shit, and they had travel problems. And Triple H today on social media thanked the production crew, the staff, the talent for working so hard to get that show done. And they deal with this every year. I feel like they're always in the Northeast or snow-covered areas in January. Like, why don't you just book a permanent 2-month West Coast run? Every January, maybe every mid-December through mid-February or something, just to get through that meat of the freezing cold winter. Just book Arizona, South Texas, Southern California. Shit, even San Francisco or something. It wouldn't be too bad up there. Don't go up to Seattle or nothing. You'll be covered in snow again. But just keep it south. Book South Texas, New Orleans, Atlanta, although it can still snow at Atlanta. Book Orlando, Miami, Tampa, San Diego, LA, southern places, Phoenix, places like that is what I would do. Corpus Christi, all them southern towns. Why don't they just come here and there during the winter months? That one year at Royal Rumble, they got snowed in the next night on Raw, and they had to run the the shit from the headquarters and stuff. Like, don't even risk that. You know, when you're January is just such a crazy blizzard month. Stay the fuck out of New York and DC and Arkansas and Michigan and Minnesota and Wisconsin and Maine and Toronto. Stay the fuck out of there, man. Just go south. Just go south. Smarter. So anyway, good on WWE for getting their shit together for Monday Night Raw last night. Spaz is here chiming in with $10 for us. Thanks, dude. Appreciate that. Cheap plug. I got a video out with my thoughts on TNA's comeback pay-per-view, the signing of Nick Nemeth. The deal they signed with AAA. That's right. There is a official working relationship between TNA and AAA, which is great. Love to get some feedback from you lovely folks. Cheers, Greg. Well, thank you for that, Spaz. That's something I forgot to mention earlier on when talking about Hard to Kill, is it's so cool to see so many different promotions working together. I mean, they're all kind of tied in when you really think about it. I mean, Nick Nemeth, you know, is going to be in TNA. He's also showed up in New Japan. I have no doubt that he can make it an AEW appearance. Forbidden Door is coming up. I think Nick Nemeth and Mustafa Ali could both appear at Forbidden Door. That would be fucking awesome. And with TNA working with AAA, WWE and NXT maybe working with All Japan, right? And then AEW is working with New Japan. And they've also worked with Impact in the past. And this is great. This is exactly what wrestling needs. And it's why I love wrestling right now. It's pretty badass. Go check out Spaz's thoughts on all that stuff. And getting back to Raw last night, the show opened up with a pretty good promo between Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. Now, what's funny is on Saturday, in my mumbling, bumbling, idiotic podcast from Saturday, I get done with it and I'm like, shit, I had CM Punk and Drew McIntyre in my video title and I forgot to talk about them. So last Monday, we got that awesome promo between McIntyre and CM Punk, where Drew called him a demon and all that shit. And that was a really good promo that made me wonder, okay, what are their plans here? You know, Punk has kind of got his thing with Seth that most fans are expecting to start playing out soon. And now he's getting in the face of Drew McIntyre. They're getting in each other's face. And then McIntyre talked about the Royal Rumble. He said he's going to throw out CM Punk last and all that shit. I'm like, okay, that's intriguing. Now McIntyre is back out again. Now it's him and Cody in the ring. And I think Drew McIntyre is the most interesting he has been since when he became a contender for the world title back in 2020. It's been 4 years since I've been this interested in McIntyre. I think he's doing great work. Still don't know, at least I don't. Maybe the news is out there. I just don't personally know it. If he has re-signed and re-upped his contract with the company. But if he has not, they need to do that because he's great. He's a guy you want to keep around. I feel like he's already re-signed or he's gonna, and that's pretty much a non-issue. But when you see, you know, how good he's doing and how interesting he's getting, you know, it just kind of makes you wonder. And props on WWE and Triple H for being able to find something interesting that McIntyre's doing, because even though a lot of the babyfaces are calling him out for his whining, he is doing it in such a way that's very reminiscent of Bret Hart. You know, what did the fans say about Bret Hart that entire summer of 97? He's a crybaby Bret Hart. All he does is cry. But when you think about what Bret Hart's gripes were, he had points on everything that he was upset about. Everything he talked about, he had a valid argument to that. And I think with McIntyre, a lot of what you're seeing from him in his character is he has a very good reason to be pissed off. And if you kind of think about it from Drew McIntyre's perspective, you might get a little bit pissed off too. And just start claiming more motherfuckers and just being a little bit less nice. And that's kind of what McIntyre said to Cody last night. He laid out some of their history. And because we were talking about both of those guys, they were both out of the company together, or not together, but they were both out of the company at the same time, both reinventing themselves outside of the company, with Drew Galloway and Cody Rhodes going out and just making their own way with the intent of coming back to the company with a lot more value. And they both did that. And I thought it was really cool when Cody came back in. It was one of the first things I thought of. I was like, man, I always thought about him and Drew together, the fact that they had to kind of step away, retreat to move forward type of thing. And they did that, and they both did it. Now they're in the ring together. And Drew says that Cody, I didn't know this. I don't know if they're rewriting history, if this is a legitimate fact, but I guess Cody was Drew's final match in the company before Drew left. And Cody did win that, which he mentioned right at the end of the promo. And McIntyre, you know, put over Cody. He goes, I believe you will finish your story. but you're not going to finish yours before I finish mine. And went on to talk about how he's been screwed before, and he wasn't able to get his chance again after he carried the company during the pandemic. A lot of the same arguments we've heard from Drew. And he kind of calls Cody a fake, calls him a phony, a fake. You need to stop smiling all the time and step up. All I see from you when you come out is you're smiling, and you need to take things more seriously, or you're never going to finish the story that you want to finish or whatever. And Cody says that he loves being this way. He likes smiling. He loves what he does, and he relishes and appreciates his second chance where Drew complains about his. And this was such a great promo because both guys are fucking right. And every single time throughout history, as I've been watching a fan since the very extremely early 80s, since before Hogan even got on the map, whenever I have been the most invested in a promo or an angle or a feud or something, it's usually when both guys, have valid arguments. And it usually works better when both guys are baby faces or one guy's at least half baby face. But for the most part, you could understand Drew's perspective and you could understand Cody's. And with both of them in the Rumble, both of them acknowledging that they're in the Rumble and they might be targeting each other, you add CM Punk into the mix since him and McIntyre were in a promo in-ring together last week. And next week, there's an in-ring segment planned for Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, which is going to be really interesting. And I think they kept CM Punk off the show last night. He'll be back next week to be in the ring with Cody. And when you look at everything that they're setting up here for the Rumble compared to SmackDown, it's starting to look like ain't no way a SmackDown guy's winning this Royal Rumble. It's going to be a Raw person. And I think that between Cody, Drew, Punk, Brock, and Gunther, you're probably going to be adding Sami Zayn to that mix too, Jey Uso. There's a lot of guys on Raw, I think, who have the potential to win the Royal Rumble. And I like that WWE's keeping you guessing. One of the things I was worried about ever since like last summer is the possibility of WrestleMania 40 being predictable. And I think it's safe to say that predictability is out the window now because we don't know what they're going to do. One big giant elephant sitting in this room right now is The Rock, and we don't even know how he's going to fit into everything yet. So if anything, it's about as unpredictable as it could be. And I think that's good because WWE doesn't want us to already know who's going to win the Rumble. It's going to be CM Punk and he's going to challenge Seth, and then Cody's going to win the Chamber and he's going to challenge Roman. That might still be what they do, but they're going to really trip you up and throw a lot of obstacles in your way before you get there. So it's not totally obvious. So you got McIntyre staking his claim and Cody staking his and Punk staking his. Gunther's in this thing now. Brock's going to be coming back. There's going to be some major, major contenders. Don't forget on SmackDown, you still have super over talents there, like LA Knight. You got Randy, or well, I guess, they're going to be in the Fatal 4-Way. So never mind. They're all going to be facing Roman Reigns. They're not even involved, which is why it's just really got to be a Raw guy, which means if you think about it, if you just do the math, and I could be wrong, help me out with the years in the chat. How many times has, in recent years, since they've done brand split shit, how many times have the men and women's winner both been from the same brand? I feel like it's happened kind of recently, but it's not super common, right? Usually you probably want to split them up. So if a Raw guy is going to win the Rumble, wouldn't you think a SmackDown woman would win it over there? Like a lot of people have been pointing to Becky and Rhea Ripley, but I don't think Becky's going to win the Rumble if a Raw person wins the Rumble. I feel like Becky should win the Chamber, or something like that. So if they're going to do the Chamber in Perth to determine the other two challengers, then that would make a lot of sense. Cody would be challenging for Roman and Becky would be challenging for Ripley. They would win their respective Chamber matches, and then you got to wonder too. One thing we got to think about with Cody that we're not even thinking about here, if Cody finishes his story the way I want him to and the way everybody else wants him to, if Cody does, for example, win the Royal Rumble or win the Elimination Chamber and challenge Roman Reigns, if he beats Roman Reigns, does that mean he's on SmackDown? What is that? I mean, does that mean Cody then goes to SmackDown? That's what it means, right? Wouldn't it mean that? What would it mean? Like, how are they going to figure that out? There's so much shit to figure out. That's why I like The Rock being involved in this is make me the whole thing fucking nervous as hell. But I like the fact that they're putting all these names, these stars in the Rumble. They're having individual promos with each other, letting each other know they're aware of the other one. You ain't finishing your story before I finish mine. Cody, Drew, and Punk all have stories to finish. If you really look at it, Sammy's got a story to finish. Jey Uso's got a story to finish. A lot of people have stories to finish, and that's cool. That's cool. So if I'm throwing out some ideas here for a finish, I still think Cody should not win. I still think Cody should not win the Rumble because of what I mentioned earlier with the predictability. You know, we all have been thinking since last year, oh, Cody's going to get his shot at WrestleMania 40 again. You know, if Cody wins the Rumble, then he's going to be like, okay, yeah, I challenged Roman. Well, what the hell is Cody going to do on TV for the next 2.5 months when Roman isn't booked for any other shows? He's not even on the same brand as Cody. So Cody's going to be on Raw talking about Roman. He's going to have to make some SmackDown appearances, obviously. That's going to go on for way too long. Where if, for example, CM Punk won the Rumble, you got Seth Rollins right there on the same brand as you, provided he's not injured. And we don't get some injury report on him tomorrow from his match last night. And Seth's healthy, ready to rock. Punk wins the Rumble. That could be fun 2.5 month build with those two guys on TV most weeks together building that up. Where Cody, you know the John Travolta meme from Pulp Fiction where he's just looking around? It's just going to be Cody as Roman's challenger, but with nothing else to do. Maybe that's why Nakamura is still kind of floating around and insinuating that he might not be done with Cody Rhodes because Cody might have more time to kill or something. So I feel like it's better for the story if Cody does not win the Royal Rumble and one of these guys throws him out. McIntyre eliminates him. Punk eliminates him. Somebody eliminates him. Or maybe Gunther eliminates him. I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine with Gunther eliminating Cody Rhodes in this thing because I think it's better for the story if he doesn't win. Then he finds a way into that Elimination Chamber match and all of that. But that goes back to what I was saying earlier too, and I've been saying for a few months now, the only way that really works is if CM Punk wins the Rumble. Because CM Punk is the only wrestler, and I could be wrong, but CM Punk is the only wrestler, in my opinion, that can win the Royal Rumble and would not challenge Roman because of his issues with Seth Rollins. And I think we could see those build up more on TV, again, provided Seth isn't injured, in the next week or so. And as of right now, Seth has no plans to work the Royal Rumble. And as I said, or has no match assigned for the Royal Rumble anyway. So it's possible Seth does not work it and does not have a match and takes the night off because who does he work with? He's not going to work with Jinder again. I thought he might if they did a schmoz finish last night, but they didn't. He beat Jinder, kind of fucking buried his finisher too. So there's nothing really for Seth to do. So I think it would be really fun if Punk won the Rumble and when he climbs up to point to the WrestleMania sign, he just points to Seth instead, who's enjoying the show from the skybox up in the upper level. That would be super fun. And Punk is the only person. He's the only one that you could legitimately say would make sense for him not to challenge Roman, because even though Seth has done a great job with that World Heavyweight title, he's been a fantastic, magnificent champion. That belt is less than a year old. You would think, logic would tell you that whoever wins the Royal Rumble is going to want Roman. Roman is the ultimate prize. Beating him, ending that run, ending his dominance, your name would look much bigger and brighter in the record books, in my opinion, than it would if you beat Seth Rollins for the title, just because of the value that the two titles hold currently. It's not a knock on Seth or anything. It just feels like if I'm a WWE wrestler and I win the Rumble, I'm coming after you, big Samoan man. So the only way it would make sense for the challenger or the winner of the Rumble to challenge for Seth's title is if that guy already hates his fucking guts, which CM Punk does. If anybody else were to win that Rumble other than Punk, I would think they're going to challenge Roman Reigns, which is why it really narrows down who can win this fucking Rumble. Because if it's not Punk, then it has to be Cody, right? Because who else, for example, Gunther is going to win the Rumble and then challenge Seth? Wouldn't Gunther challenge Roman? What if Rock comes in? That's why I think Rock could show up in this thing fucking too. and potentially win this thing, giving him the title match against Roman Reigns. But I believe, I have faith in Triple H that he's not going to derail Cody's story for Dwayne. I just can't see it happening. So when you really think about it like that, it feels like Punk is going to be the winner of the Rumble, and what WWE is doing here is really trying to add as much doubt to that as possible, which I think they're doing a good job of here with all of these people that are going to be in it and how this thing can be booked. And I like that. So I still feel like it's going to be Punk winning the Rumble and Cody winning the Chamber, because if you reverse it, it would be all right, but because Cody's going to challenge Roman, obviously, I just feel like that leaves you a lot of dead space in between Mania and Rumble, with Roman kind of not being around. You're just going to get a couple of Cody and Roman promos in the next 2 months leading up to this. That's not a very satisfying way to tell the story or to finish the story, where if Cody has to, face some more adversity. That was a big topic of conversation last year. Remember, I wanted to remove adversity from the fucking dictionary. I heard it so damn much. So all people talk, we need more adversity. Well, he's going to get a fuck ton of it this year. If he loses the Rumble, and then he's got to find his way into a chamber match, this fucking monstrosity of chain and pain and just horrifying violence, then get there. And then you got a little bit less time to do the actual one-on-one Roman and Cody build, leading to Mania, which means you're not going to have to just kill as much time as you would. So I feel like that's the best path. The best path is a Punk Rumble win and a Cody Chamber win, and those are going to be your two World Championship challengers at WrestleMania. For the women, I don't feel like Becky can win the Royal Rumble, because I feel like a Raw person is going to win the Men's Rumble. So I feel like Becky will have to go to Australia and win the Chamber. And I think it would be really cool if Rhea Ripley defended her title at the Chamber against Nia Jax and beat her, and Becky Lynch wins the Elimination Chamber, and then there's some sort of face-off. Maybe the Chamber matches first. Maybe the Women's Chamber opens the show, Becky wins. Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax might main event. Probably not. It's going to be Cody winning the Chamber. But if not, have the Women's Chamber open, Becky wins. Later in the show, Rhea Ripley defends successfully in her home country, which is probably why they gave Nia Jax that victory over Becky and been booking her so well and presenting her so well to build her up for this Elimination Chamber match. And then Ripley beats Nia Jax after Becky wins the Chamber, and then Becky comes out, and there's a little face-to-face right there in the middle of that stadium. And that'll be perfect use for video packages as you're leading up to WrestleMania. So I feel like that would be the way to go. Becky winning the Chamber, Becky winning the Rumble would put too much Rumble winning on one show. I feel like Bayley would be an excellent choice to win the Rumble for the women, setting up a match with her and Io Sky at WrestleMania. I think a lot of people have been expecting Damage Control to kick Bayley out of the faction. That hasn't happened yet. And maybe it will happen right after Bayley wins the championship, and then they go right against her. Maybe that's when we see Mercedes come back. So that's how I'd set up the Rumble there with the men and the women. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Who do you guys think the champion that Bronson Reed is targeting is? He's apparently coming after somebody. Could be Gunther right there on his own brand. I guess it's going to have to be, unless it's Rhea Ripley. Bronson Reed and Rhea Ripley. Because Bronson Reed is Australian too, right? So I think he is. He might be. I hope he is. If I'm wrong, sorry about that. But he's also from there. So him and Rhea Ripley both having championship matches seems likely. It might be Bronson and Gunther for the title at Elimination Chamber. We had DIY defeating Dominic and JD McDonough. Tommaso Ciampa pinned JD for the win there. And we would see more from the Judgment Day later on, which was pretty damn hilarious. I saw it was R-Truth was selling bootleg merch, bootleg Judgment Day merch in the parking lot, and Damian Priest gets mad and confronts R-Truth, and then R-Truth slaps like a fat stack in his hand. He goes, "What's this?" He goes, "That's your cut. Everybody in the Judgment Day gets their cut." And that made it like kind of okay, but we would still get a tag match. Where did I write that one down? We got a tag match, right? It was Miz and R-Truth taking on Damian Priest and Finn Balor. And R-Truth was super fucking confused because he felt like he was fighting his own guys. It was really weird. In the end, he actually got pinned. And Damian Priest played a role in that. I think hit him with a move or something. And Finn Balor pinned R-Truth. So that saga continued. I like that R-Truth is still hanging around the Judgment Day a little bit. It's got shades of Sami Zayn and the Bloodline. That was a lot of fun because it was a big over-dominant faction and angle that, added a comedy aspect, and it didn't ruin it. They didn't overdo it. Sammy was goofy as fuck, but it was just the right amount of fun. And I think R-Truth has been having the same effect a lot with the Judgment Day. We'll see if this is the end of them now, since they were actually on opposite sides, or if R-Truth is going to continue to think that he's in the Judgment Day. He asked Damian Priest if, when he was talking about Tom and Nick Mysterio, he goes, "Is Nick all right? Is he sick or something?" "I'm worried about him." That's what he said. He goes, "I'm worried about Nick. Worried about Nick Mysterio." Oh, R-Truth, protect him at all costs. We had that Gunther promo. He was that I talked about earlier, where I think he talked about his Royal Rumble declaration, and he also praised Ludwig Kaiser, and that's when a very angry Xavier Woods came out, pissed off about what happened to Kofi Kingston last week, challenges Kaiser to a match. He accepts. They have the match. It ends in a DQ when Xavier uses a chair. So much like we saw Bret Hart as a changed man at the Royal Rumble in 1995, which we watched on Sunday night, maybe Xavier is a changed man here with what's been going on with his friends. So one thing I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, those who weren't here, I've been making a prediction for the past week or so that I just have this feeling, and I'm basing this feeling on absolutely zero fact, zero knowledge. This is just a gut feeling, speculation. I got no sources. I have no evidence. I have nothing. It's just my gut feeling that maybe we're going to see Big E return at the Royal Rumble. And I mentioned all of that stuff about Gunther and Brock Lesnar earlier on, with Brock could come to the Rumble and eliminate Gunther, and then you've got Gunther and Brock at WrestleMania. That would be super duper. But one thing you could also do, since Xavier and Kofi are currently in this thing with Imperium, Jey Uso stepped up to get involved to kind of be the third man there a little bit. And he even helped Xavier in the back when he was attacked backstage, when he was about to be interviewed by Kaiser after the match, and Jey kind of ran off Kaiser. So if you find yourself in a situation where it's Gunther, Kaiser, and Vinci, if he is okay, not sure what his health status is after that kick he took a couple of weeks ago, but if it's Vinci and Kaiser and Gunther in the ring, in the Royal Rumble with Kofi and Xavier, and let's just say they're the only 5 guys in there, and that clock starts ticking down, oh my God. You talk about that Edge moment from 2020, that emotion, that he showed on his face, and how the crowd reacted to him. How that one guy crying in the crowd when CM Punk returned to AEW. It's going to be like 50,000 people doing that if Big E came back. And with the 2 New Day members who, I said this a couple of weeks ago too. I said, if WWE knew, if they somehow knew Big E's future, and and they know that he's probably never going to wrestle again, maybe like Jason Jordan, he has to stay out of the ring permanently or take a backstage job or whatever. Unfortunately, Big E's just not going to be able to return. I don't know why they would just keep having Kofi and Xavier treading water as the New Day guys all this time. It feels like with no Big E, is this really the New Day? Yes, they could be a tag team. That would be great, but they still come out to the same music. They still have the same shtick. They're still the New Day, And I feel like if Big E was never going to come back, I would end that and then maybe bring them back together one day if Big E is able to get cleared by doctors. But I would maybe use Kofi and Xavier differently if that wasn't a possibility. And the fact that they've still been kind of doing the New Day stuff all this time since Big E has been injured, he's been quiet lately about what he's been doing. We have the Royal Rumble coming up, a place that has been the site of a lot of emotional returns in the past. Feels like the table's set here. Oh, and not to mention, the New Day members, the two active members of New Day, are feuding with a 3-man faction. It feels like the table is set. That's the evidence that I'm going by and coming to this gut feeling, even though I could be totally, completely 100% fucking wrong. I hope I'm 100% fucking right, because if that happens, that's going to be just lovely. It's going to be a feel-good moment. It's going to be a feel-good moment in 2024. And One thing about Edge's moment too, as great as it was, we all had heavy hearts that day. That was like the same day Kobe Bryant died. I mean, I was still processing that information, still like almost in a little bit of denial because it was just so gnarly, like what happened. And that was still very, very heavy on my mind when Edge made his return. So, having a little bit, having nothing hanging over our heads, at least hopefully, unless somebody else dies that same day, having Big E come back would be pretty damn sweet in the Rumble. So I'm kind of feeling like that's a possibility, and I hope that it is. Tozawa got an upset victory last night over Ivar. Maxine was out there doing some distracted, and he was able to fold up Ivar for the quick win. Sarah Mandela, what's her fucking name? What's her name? Her character name? She attacked Maxine, and her and Ivar beat down Maxine and Tozawa after the match. After that, we got that Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley promo, which I did like. Rhea Ripley vowed to take down Nia Jax. Becky came out and was talking some shit, but was almost, putting Rhea over at the same time. Had acknowledged the fact that she, could be finally overmatched here by someone. She just lost to Nia Jax a couple of weeks ago. And, pretty much said that I'm going to win the Royal Rumble and said, I'll see you at WrestleMania. So they've really been teasing Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch. I feel like that's going to be our match. However, I just don't think Becky Lynch can win the Royal Rumble. I think a Raw person is going to win the Royal Rumble for the men. So I feel like with the women, it's got to be SmackDown, and it's probably going to be Bayley. I think Bayley's going to win the Rumble and challenge Io at WrestleMania with that whole damage control thing finally imploding. And that would be an excellent place to bring back Mercedes Moné, even though most people expect her to show up in AEW. Maybe even Naomi can be back by then as well. And I think Naomi making an appearance in the Rumble is very, very possible. So I feel like Ripley and Becky is going to happen. Even Rhea Ripley told her, I hope you win. I hope you win the Royal Rumble because I want to see you at WrestleMania. So they're teasing that. That's going to happen. I just think Becky is going to have to win the Chamber to get that match. And since the Chamber is in Australia, a face-off with Rhea Ripley in the ring after that victory would be really cool at some point on Elimination Chamber. So I feel like Becky and Cody both will earn their opportunities at the Elimination Chamber, and it evens out, right? You got a Raw and SmackDown person winning the Rumble for the men and the women and challenging the opposite champions. The Raw men's winner will challenge Seth. The women's Royal Rumble winner will challenge Io. Then in the Elimination Chamber, Cody will challenge Roman, and the other match will challenge Ripley. So it's perfect. I've set it up perfectly. That's what you need to do, WWE. So we will see if my belief comes true. A couple of tag team matches for the women last night as well. Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell defeated Piper and Chelsea Green. That was kind of cool. And Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark defeated Natalya and Tegan Nox. Shayna tapped out Natty. Natty tore her fingernail right off the bed of her nail, and much like CJ Perry, was very kind to show us a picture of that. Thank you, Natty. That's why we love you. And then it was the main event, Seth Rollins versus Jinder Mahal for the WWE title. I did not personally think we were going to see a title change last night because there was a Monday night playoff game. This was the final night, I believe, last night of Monday Night Football. And I just don't think WWE would do a big cash in or title change or anything major on a night where you're head to head with a playoff game 1 week before you're running unopposed. Like if there was going to be something happening, just do it next week when there's no Monday Night Football on at all, and you can pop a bigger rating and get more eyeballs on it. So I wasn't really feeling a title change last night, but you never know. And with the briefcase still floating around out there, which it was, Damian Priest was out there with the briefcase, and Drew McIntyre came out and stopped him. And we had a big brawl between those two big fellers, which was really awesome. And the match was pretty good. As a matter of fact, watching it back, I wish I could have watched it live because there were a couple of near falls there, especially that one after the Colossus where you really were like, no, they're not for a minute. And I feel like if I was watching it live, I might have shit my pants that they were actually going to put the title on Jinder because that was pretty close. I think it was Damian Priest cracked Jinder in the head with the briefcase. Or, I'm sorry, cracked Seth in the face with the briefcase, and then Jinder hit him with the Colossus. And it was like a 2 9/10, and Seth Rollins kicked out, which was fucking insane. And then Seth was able just to recover and hit him with the stomp to retain after he had to fight off into Sheer. And like I said, Priest was out there, McIntyre was out there, and it was a fun match. It was a fun finish. Seth got another victory, and we saw no cash in or anything like that. So Seth now retains the title. And of course, as we talked about at the beginning of the episode here, there was the reports that Seth Rollins was helped to the back and he might have a knee injury. We haven't had any updates on that. Apparently, WWE has said that they will know more. That was according to a FightFul Select report that I read today, that they will know more tomorrow on the situation. So let's just all hope and pray and keep our fingers crossed that Seth does not have any serious injury that's going to potentially ruin his WrestleMania season or match, because that would be, I wouldn't say catastrophic, but it would be catastrophically disappointing. You know, even though we have a lot of other things to look forward to in terms of Mania season, this one would really hurt because I think this is going to be Punk's match is against Seth. And then if you take that opponent out of there, not that Punk can't have a completely different match with somebody else, it just wouldn't feel as awesome, you know, as it would with Seth Rollins. So let's hope that Seth is okay. Let's just say hypothetically that Seth was just selling last night. There's nothing wrong with his knee at all. And he was just selling for the live crowd and nothing's really wrong there. Or the injury, he did tweak his knee, but everything appears to be fine. He just needs to rest it for a while or whatever. It doesn't look like WWE has a plan for Seth Rollins for the Royal Rumble. And we talked about this on Saturday, you know, before the match last night. And I said, Seth either is going to have like a DQ finish that's going to set up a rematch with Jinder at the Rumble, or maybe a cash-in that sets up Seth Rollins getting a title shot at the Rumble to try to win his belt back, or he's just going to beat Jinder Mahal, which means with only one more Raw before the Royal Rumble, what the hell is Seth Rollins going to do? I think the answer is that Seth Rollins isn't going to do anything. I think he's going to take the night off. And I like my idea of him sitting up in the press box and watching the Royal Rumble and have CM Punk point to him after the match, immediately letting the fans know who he's coming after at WrestleMania, because as I've been harping on, CM Punk is the only opponent that would make any sense to win the Royal Rumble who would not challenge Roman. Anybody other than Punk who wins that Royal Rumble, you would assume would want to challenge Roman. I cannot hammer that point home hard enough. I can't see any other guy that would win that Rumble and be like, I want Seth. Punk is the only one that really makes any sense there. Everybody else would challenge Roman, which is why I think Punk really is the likely winner of the Royal Rumble from where we sit right now. So we will see. It all hinges on Seth Rollins and his knee injury. Let's just hope for the best on that. And hopefully he's just fine and there will be no danger to his match, whatever that might be, at WrestleMania. And if it's, like I said, if it's not something serious like what Cora Jade unfortunately just went through, tearing her ACL, and she'll be out for a while, and Punk just tweaked it, hyperextended it, something like that. Hey, WrestleMania is 2 months away, man. Just take it easy. He doesn't need to wrestle at Perth or anything either. Just have him, rest up and just be ready for WrestleMania. It's probably the best way to do it. And hopefully that won't mess up any of WWE's cash-in plans, because I have a few predictions. My predictions, my three big ones here, are that Big E shows up in the Rumble. Cody does, in fact, finish his story on night 2 of WrestleMania, winning the title, beating Roman Reigns. I believe that's going to happen. Don't know where The Rock's going to tie in or any of that or how all that's going to work. I just feel like Cody's story is going to happen. Like, I firmly believe that. So with WrestleMania and those ideas, I don't know if Priest would really factor into that for a cash-in, but he's my other prediction. I feel like Priest is going to successfully cash in the briefcase. And I feel like a great place for that would be in a Punk and Rollins match. If that's at WrestleMania, great, but it doesn't have to be. It would be a great Dolph Ziggler in 2013 moment, having him cash in the night after WrestleMania or something like that. But I feel like Priest holding this briefcase, he's doing great work. Everybody's very high on Priest. The company is. Triple H likes him. They seem like they want to make a star out of him. He's been a great, kind of half-ass leader of the Judgment Day all year. He stands up strongly to people like Drew McIntyre and others who are large like him. He's a good talker. I feel like he's going to win the World Heavyweight title via a Money in the Bank cash-in. And I just don't know if you want to do that before WrestleMania or at WrestleMania. But I feel like him closing out night one as World Heavyweight Champion is extremely likely, and that's something I mentioned right after Survivor Series. I said, when Punk and Seth Rollins get in the ring for the first time, I feel like Rollins needs to win that match. He needs to beat CM Punk, and then Damian Priest cashes in, and then maybe CM Punk beats him for the championship. And I would do something like that. But I feel like Punk has to have that eat shit loss first, just like Brock did, and just like Hogan did, just a lot of guys when they came in. After, a tumultuous relationship with WWE, they got to fucking lose. So I hope that he does. We'll see how all of that plays out. Let me know what you guys think of all this. Austin Theory, I hope you don't want him to win the Rumble. Let me cruise up here and knock out some super chats that I missed earlier. Mike Witt has got 5 for me. Mania prediction, Rock versus Roman Reigns night 1. I hate this idea. A lot of people brought this up. Rock versus Roman Reigns on night 1. Cody's versus Roman night 2. Roman wins night 1. Cody wins night 2. Priest cashes in for Ultimate Heat. No, I don't think you're going to cash in on Cody's moment. I just don't. I feel like the Priest cash in will happen before that. I feel like Priest is going to be, like I said, they could save it till after WrestleMania, but I feel like Priest would be the champion before Cody even gets to that moment. I'm not saying Roman working both nights isn't going to happen. I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is I don't want it to. I don't like that idea. It would kind of play into the story, though, because Roman hasn't been defending the title a lot. He's never on TV. And if he defends at the Rumble against 3 guys, maybe that's going to be his justification for saying, I'm out of here. I'm not going to be anywhere near Elimination Chamber or anything like that. And so to make up for the fact that he hasn't been wrestling a lot, he's got to work both nights. They could tie that in, I suppose. But again, we've talked about that. We talked about that for like an hour last week, Rock and Roman Reigns. If they were to do night 1 together and Roman beats him, that doesn't seem like something The Rock would do. Come in and work the curtain jerker, lose and leave. Rock made such a big deal about his presence being there. What can we do that's never been done? And the beginning of something great. That does not sound like the beginning of something great. So I feel like it would have been better as the main event in the chamber than doing it on night 1. I'm not saying they're not going to do Rock and Roman on night 1. I just personally would not. I don't like that idea. Just like I don't like the triple threat. I've liked the triple threat at WrestleMania 20 and WrestleMania 30, but this year it would be stories that don't need to overlapping with each other, which is why I'm against that too. So I'm starting to feel like, maybe Rock and Roman is a Saudi thing or something. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to play out yet. And I ain't going to lie, I'm still pretty nervous about it. Mike's got 2 more. Bayley and Punk are my picks for the Rumble. Those are good ones. They're pretty much my picks too. I totally agree with that. 2 more from Mike. I still say we get Jimmy versus Jay at Mania 2. Well, that's kind of obvious. We're going to get Jimmy and Jay. Absolutely. Forgot to talk about that earlier. But yeah, Jimmy and Jay will definitely happen at WrestleMania. And I'm not sure if Logan Paul is going to make it to Mania or not. Kevin Owens beating him at the Rumble would be pretty awesome. But you also have to wonder if Logan would hold the title until WrestleMania, and maybe, and Logan's going to have to work with somebody at WrestleMania as well. So I don't know what that's going to be, and I don't know what their plans for him and the U.S. title is beyond that. R-Truth winning the Rumble. Hey, I'd be into that. Right on. If anybody has not smashed that sexy little like button down there, please do so for me. I just want to talk about a couple of more things, and then I'll probably get out of here unless you guys have more topics you want discussed. But Lula Twins, what if they do a countdown clock and they have him cash it in with seconds to spare? Oh, you mean like how much time he's got until his year is up? That would take us into the summer. Yeah, I don't know. That could work, I suppose. But if they start doing a countdown clock, that also might kind of give it away that they're going to wait till the last second. I don't know how that would work. It would be funny to see somebody expire their own contract, like not cash it in or forget. Like if you gave it to R-Truth, he'd probably forget he had it. And then the year goes by, he never cashed it in. Ah, shit. That would be pretty funny. Also on Saturday, that was a busy day. We had TNA Hard to Kill, like I said, with appearances by Dana Brooke, by Nick Nemeth. That was all very awesome. And on Collision, we had a few interesting matches. Feels like Edge has been having a blast there, working with a bunch of young people. He had like an Edge, a Cope Open, what was it, Copeland? A Cope Open on Saturday night, which was answered by Lee Moriarty. So you would have told me a year ago a match between Edge and Lee Moriarty is going to exist, I would not have believed you. So that was kind of cool. Big trip for him. Looks like Edge is using the crippler crossface these days as his finisher. Taps out Lee Moriarty. Hook won a tune-up match. And of course, he's got a title shot on Wednesday against Samoa Joe, which should be awesome. And by Wednesday, I mean tomorrow on Dynamite. And we had Deonna Purrazzo also make her in-ring debut for AEW, defeating Red Velvet. So that's what went down for the most part on Collision. I think there was a couple of other matches, but nothing that important. And then on Battle of the Belts, we did have that tag team title match with Jericho and Sammy Guevara challenging Big Bill and Ricky Starks. And we talked about this one in the podcast that I felt like something was going to happen here, maybe to write Jericho off TV. And this thing was like all kinds of nuts. It got way wilder than I expected it to be. And it was honestly a lot of fun. If you try to put the Jericho controversy out of your head and just judge the match, it was actually pretty fucking fun. Jericho got powerbombed hard through a couple of tables in the timekeepers area when he was about to do something to Big Bill, and then Takeshita came in with a kendo stick and whacked Jericho in the head, and then he got put through the tables. And so him and Big Bill were taken out. And then the finish was on the stage with Ricky Starks down on what was a crash pad, and Sammy Guevara Shane McMahoned his way all the way to the top of the set, climbed all the way up to the top, had to have been 30 feet, and jumped big swanton. Of course, Hobbs pulls Ricky Starks out of the way, and Sammy crashes through the crash pad there, and then Starks pins him, and they retain. So hopefully that's kind of a way to keep Jericho off TV. That's what I would do if I'm Tony Khan at this point with Chris Jericho. These things aren't just going to evaporate and go away, so you need to deal with them. So conduct your investigation, do whatever you want, get Jericho out of the way until whatever you need to do blows over. And that way, next time you have a scrum and you're wearing a hat and glasses, you actually have an answer for these people who are going to ask you about the Jericho stuff or anything else we might learn until that time. I feel like they should just get Jericho out of there until there's some sort of resolution or there is some sort of outward, denial, rebuttal, or anything about these allegations involving Jericho. I don't know. I just feel like he's kind of a hot topic right now. So if I'm Tony Khan, I'm keeping him off TV until I figure out how to manage this latest fucking AEW catastrophe. So it was a big Saturday. It was really cool to see everybody having fun. I was at work, stuck at work right after the podcast. I had to go straight there, but I was looking at social media, looking at my phone and seeing that a lot of really cool things were happening. And that's awesome when you got 3 shows kind of happening at once, people showing up all over the place. That's just all kinds of fun. And I loved it. So very cool on Saturday. Plus we had Raw last night and some other things going on. I felt like if I waited until Saturday to do another podcast, we were going to have way too much to talk about. So I think I'm going to try to schedule a members only Saturday night's main event watch along for the end of the week, either Thursday or Friday, maybe like an afternoon thing to try to bust 1 or 2 of those out. And I'm working on a couple of reactions right now for the second channel. So you'll have some, content hitting your faces here this week. So make sure you stay tuned. Let me see what the chat has to say before I sign off here. Mike Witt, appreciate $2 from you. LA Knight takes the U.S. title from Logan Paul at WrestleMania. So that means Logan Paul needs to beat Kevin Owens. I don't want to see that, but I do like the idea of LA Knight taking the title from Logan Paul. But then again, you might be able just to do a Logan Paul and LA Knight match without the championship. Logan Paul, with his celebrity status, he doesn't really need to be a champion. You know what I mean? So if he dropped it to Kevin Owens, I'd be fine with it. It feels like it's kind of a short run, but if he's never on TV defending it, and SmackDown already is missing their champion as it is, what is going on SmackDown? There's no belts to contend for other than the women's title and whenever the tags come over there. which is never these days. Is Judgment Day ever even over there on that brand? So, by the way, what are they going to do with those tag belts? That was never followed up on. We did hear a story from a couple of months ago where they were screen testing and photo testing some new sets of WWE tag team titles, but the titles still sit on the Judgment Day, right? And right, they're still champions, and they still haven't split the belts back up, and I don't know what the future of those belts are going to be. Maybe it's something that Triple H wants to wait until after WrestleMania to get done or to address. I don't know, but we never really got an answer there either. So there's really no championships on SmackDown other than Io Sky's, which is kind of weird. So I don't know. Logan Paul holding the title longer. Do we really want that? I would think it would be pretty cool if Kevin Owens got a big win at the Royal Rumble, won the U.S. Championship, although that's a belt he's already held a couple of times. It would be somewhat pointless, I think, for Kevin Owens to win that championship too, because he doesn't really need it. He's already had it. I'd rather see Kevin Owens contend for a world title, but then again, it could keep him busy and give him a championship to hold while, the world title situation sorts itself out. And then maybe after WrestleMania, you get him in the mix. But if Kevin Owens retires by only winning that one title, that's just going to be absolutely criminal. But I do like LA Knight and Logan Paul at Mania. I just believe it doesn't really need to have a title. But if it did, fine. It would give LA Knight a championship. But also working with someone like Logan Paul, that victory would also be valuable just to have that win at WrestleMania against him. Jordan Carr, good to see you, man. Yeah, you might have to catch the recap because we're getting down to the end of this here. I liked when years ago, Kevin Owens, he did the beard shave thing and he started wearing a suit. He came out there more clean shaven, and I believe he was U.S. champion. And they did I remember they would do the big graphic of his face on the entrance ramp. And when he would make his entrance, he would walk around, he would refuse to step on his own face. I just thought that was such a cool little touch to the presentation, but that didn't last long. He was back to the jeans and shorts and basketball shorts shortly thereafter. Yeah, Jericho and Tony Khan needs to be off social media. Tony Khan needs to maybe do a count to 10, because sometimes that tweeting meltdown that he went on last week, he had to have known that wasn't a good idea, right? I just think sometimes you get yourself in a beef with someone and you just can't resist, and sometimes, which is what I do, I allow myself one Twitter beef a month where I might have something to say to somebody back or whatever. But for the most part, if you just stop and think about it for a minute, I'm why are you going to give this fucking moron a minute of your time? So, if Tony Khan, if something's bothering him, it's Jinder Mahal. Just what the fuck? Just shut up. Focus on your own product, as so many people were telling him to do last week. But yeah, sometimes I think maybe Tony Khan, it would be better and more beneficial for him to be invisible. One thing I don't believe about Tony Khan is I don't think that his behavior, because you see a lot of that too, a lot of this echo chamber, just the repeating of the same shit. A lot of it is he's deterring fans from watching his product. No, he's not. Some, yes, maybe, but I don't think he's doing that enough that's going to have a significant effect on the ratings, where 2 tweets from Tony Khan make 500,000 people not want to watch their show. That's not happening. But I do think it would be probably beneficial to AEW if you just didn't hear about him at all. It would probably be much easier because he is such a target, of the wrath of angry fans. And then people who have higher positions use that hate and anger to make money off of him. So every single fucking video is just some criticism of Tony Khan. Same thing on social media. Eric Bischoff. Well, look at the comparison to any other Eric Bischoff tweet when he tweets about red meat or fucking deer hunting in Wyoming or whatever the fuck he does out there. Compare those tweets to anything that's shitting on Tony Khan. It's 20 times more likes, on the shit on Tony Khan ones. And people know this. It's the same thing on YouTube because it's hate porn. It's whack-off material for these angry assholes, and they know it. And Tony Khan is a big target for that. of that. Plus, he's a fucking weirdo on top of that, which doesn't help his cause. Whenever he has come out on TV and made an announcement, he yells it at us. The only time where he's not screaming at you like a madman is when it's a pre-tape backstage. Otherwise, do this when he's talking. He's had some, strange responses, at media scrums. A lot of fans think he's just the worst for saying his life felt threatened and endangered during the brawl-in fight, but nobody knows what the fuck happened until we see a video of that. I don't think you have any right to tell him that he's just being a pussy because you weren't there. Nobody saw this. Lots of people saw it, but there's no video. As soon as you see what happens, then, you can make your own judgments there. But all of these things are just fuel on the already existing Tony Khan hate fire. So if I'm AEW, or if I'm if Tony Khan has like a circle, I don't know if he does, of people who he trusts, or people who are confident enough around him where they can tell him anything, not just yes men. That's why he probably needs a wife, that he doesn't have one. If he had a wife, she might say this to him. She might say, babe, put your fucking phone away because you're being stupid. And all you're going to do is rile up these motherfuckers, and that's not good for your company. Knock it off. Come over here. I'll suck your dick. But he doesn't have that. He doesn't have anybody to tell him that's stupid. He lets his emotions maybe get the best of him. Holy shit. You mean to tell me Tony Khan's human? Pretty crazy. Even billionaires are human. So lets his emotions get the best of him, tweets some ill-advised things from time to time, has funny behavior. I don't think this guy's evil or bad or anything like that, but I do think he's fucking weird as hell. And if he just wasn't around, like imagine if you just never had to hear about him. I have no issue with the guy at all, but I do admit that I think it would be better for the company if he was just invisible. If he was invisible the way you never knew, or most fans didn't, that Vince McMahon was the owner of the company. He was just the announcer. Tony Khan, there's been other promoters throughout the years that I remember not knowing what they looked like for the longest time because you never really saw them that often, some of them. And if it was more like that, where Tony Khan was kind of like an invisible, the invisible head of the company, to where he's not giving the fans ammunition. Because think about that. Think about how much that hate that Tony Khan complains about, that he says the AEW is such the target of hate and all that shit and those tweets. If you just stay completely gone and completely invisible, and you just concentrate all of your efforts on backstage stuff, running the show from Gorilla, booking the show, signing your talent, occasionally you might have to do a media appearance or something like that, but you just stayed completely out of it. Completely. To where fans never saw you, fans never heard about you. All of those tweets that you send out, or just and you can still have I'm not saying leave social media, still have a social media account, but only use it for promotion. Every week when he's like, justified, this is awesome chance for this or that. Just tweets like that. Simple, easy, direct promotion for your show. Watch AEW Dynamite tonight. No opinions, no meltdowns, no anger. Make it look like somebody else is running it. Actually, that's what he should do. A lot of people have people running their Twitters for them to send out those type of tweets, and just stay invisible and don't give anybody any ammunition. Then they can just judge you for your booking and what they see on TV with all those asshole botch accounts and whatnot. So they'll have that, but they won't be able to have a lot of that other stuff. And if you stay gone and stay invisible and stay completely out of the spotlight for long enough, they're going to run out of shit to fucking bitch about, and then they're just going to rehash. Everything they already do is rehashing. Every fucking Cornette video on him ripping AEW, it's the same twinkle toes and the same fucking stupid ass nicknames that all of his fucking minions just repeat incessantly. Eventually that shit will just run out. And if I'm Tony Khan, I'm at least entertaining that idea that sometimes I'm just a little bit too weird for the wrestling audience to handle, because they're all fucking weirdos. And when they see somebody else weirder than them, they get threatened by it. Maybe that's what's going on here. I don't know. But I feel like Tony Khan would do his company best by just not being a presence, just not being and he probably, a lot of people have a lot of money and are billionaires, do like to have power and do like people to know that they have power. So Tony Khan probably does want to be known as the head of AEW. He probably doesn't want to stay completely silent or stay away or feel like he can't speak publicly or do anything like that. But I feel like if he was just an owner in the respect of where he just did everything, behind the scenes, and then any announcements that had to be made or any major promotion that needed to be done, you have somebody do that for you. Have an on-air authority figure, get yourself a William Regal or a Nick Aldis or an Adam Pearce or somebody like that to be the person that makes a lot of these announcements. I think Tony Schiavone is pretty much that guy now, but maybe, somebody in a little bit more of a permanent role with that. I don't know. And just stay the fuck away. Just stay gone on everything. But then again, that can only work so much, because the minute there's another scandal, we're going to need comments from Tony Khan. He's a coward, So then if he stayed away, he would just be a coward. So either way, it would just always probably be hate. But I think the over the top, ridiculous hate that we see that's so prevalent out there, I think would at least be somewhat reduced if this guy was never saying anything. Because you got to give them ammunition to use. And if you're not giving them any, all they can do is just whack each other off. And then eventually they'll punch themselves out and they'll move on to something else to hate. But when you're constantly not being able to resist the urge to mouth off on social media, of course, you're going to get shit on. Of course, you're going to have people like Eric Bischoff and other people on social media who I sat here and watched tweet for 72 hours about this shit. Eric Bischoff, Raj Giri, a whole bunch of them just would not stop they're so mad about the 3 tweets Tony Khan made. They tweeted for 3 days about it. So when your behavior and your presence and your existence riles people up to that degree, why the fuck are you going to poke those bears, man? Just stay the fuck away from them, because also you have to think about your talent. I'm sure a lot of talent was like, oh, fuck's sake, Tony, will you just shut up? They probably feel the same way I do. They're like, if he just stayed away, if he just stayed out of the public eye completely, this company would actually be doing pretty well. There's probably talent that feels that way. Like he's not helping us either. The talent fucks up a lot. And every time the company takes a step forward, they take 2 steps back sometimes. And I think so far, Tony Khan's behavior as a wrestling promoter hasn't done a lot of good for that company. And I don't mind a crazy promoter, because they've all been crazy, every single one of them. Vince was a pure fucking scumbag. A lot of them are just assholes and abusers, and they're all fucking horrible, or they're just plain batshit nuts, like we've seen a few times as well. So Tony Khan is no crazier than any of them. But I think the way the wrestling is now, and social media and the internet and all of that stuff, I don't think it's really that beneficial for Tony Khan to be out there angering people and taking attention away, like we've already seen happen too many times in that company. The backstage drama there has taken attention away from big moments, big matches, big stories. It's happened a bunch of times. And, last year, right before they're about to go out in front of the biggest house they're probably ever going to see, monumental moment for the company, they have a huge fucking backstage scuffle that leads to CM Punk going back to WWE. So every time, they start making some moves, some sort of controversy or scandal takes the attention away from it. And Tony Khan trends a lot on social media. Just his name trends a lot. And I feel like if I'm Tony Khan, like Chosen in Cobra Kai, when an enemy insists on war, you take away their ability to wage it. And that's the way I would look at it, Tony Khan. I'm like, okay, you guys are insistent on hating me, so I'm just going to go away. You can hate the air now. But unfortunately, I don't think Tony Khan is going to do that. He's probably way too stubborn. But I do think it would probably be better for business if he just was invisible. That's my opinion on Mr. TK there, as I know he's a polarizing figure, isn't he? Mike Witt's got 2 more. I'm still going to mark out if AJ Lee is in the Rumble. I should have mentioned her earlier. I feel like she will be. I feel like AJ is very likely for the Rumble. Yeah. I've never been blocked by Bischoff. I actually agreed with something he said a couple of weeks ago about Elimination Chamber. I don't dislike Eric, but he has a stick up his ass about AEW. But again, I think a lot of it's engagement. People have been bringing that up a lot lately. Like, look at the numbers these do. Look at the numbers hating AEW does. And that's why I think people like Eric and other people that are either, passive aggressively anti-AEW or outwardly anti-AEW, they know that those posts and everything gets more likes and engagement. I'm just not that much of a sellout. I would never be somebody I'm not for likes. That's just fucking crazy, especially when it's so negative. Why do you want to just bring that negative when negativity and pessimism is your first instinct? You're not going to have anything in common with me. So like, why the fuck would I want to even pretend to be that way? I don't care how many likes I get. It's fucking stupid. So it's sad. And the last couple of days on social media has been stupid anyway with the whole Deonna Purrazzo thing, and these just one-dimensional, holeless losers. It's like their first instinct is always to body shame, or to attack Amanda Huber or try to give your own fucked up definition of what you think racism is. I mean, the last 2 days on social media, it's just been ridiculous. People, Hogan's not a racist. Yes, because you don't hate every black person you've ever met means you're not a racist. Like, Jesus Christ, Hogan is an admitted racist. He said it himself. I'm a racist. So things like that. And then, just the discussion and the chatter that spawns and sparks and the responses and the retorts. And you're like, what is the education level of these people? Because they're all the same. All these people who the very first instinct is to comment on Deonna Purrazzo's appearance, go look at their timelines. They're a dime a dozen. They're all the same. Probably something MAGA in there, or they definitely hate cancel culture and woke shit. That's for sure. I'm sure there's an American flag in there somewhere, and they're probably bragging about being a parent of some other kid. And you're teaching them an excellent lesson here, pal, to just be an asshole. And I always negatively complain about the negativity. But it's crazy how much of it does exist, especially in a time when things should be really jovial in wrestling. It's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan. And as much negativity as you see, it is counterbalanced with a lot of positivity, a lot of good people in the space. They're not drowned out by the negativity, but sometimes the negativity is so embarrassing, and so putrid. It's just like, my God, what are these people thinking? What are their brains composed of? Other than warm, liquidy shit, because I can't imagine a functioning brain saying something that asinine. And you see way too much of that on social media. So I think the more and more fans who try to spread positivity and love, I think we can overcome a lot of that negativity because it's just too much. But it's a good time to be a wrestling fan. It was a great weekend in wrestling. Last night's Raw was pretty fun, even though we did not get anything too crazy because they were head to head with football. It's setting up some interesting scenarios for the Rumble, and it still leaves a lot of unanswered questions about Rock and Roman at WrestleMania, at Chamber, at Saudi, when that's going to happen. Cody's story, a lot of stuff up in the air, and that's pretty fun. So anyway, that's the latest here. Thank you for being here and hanging out with me tonight on this kind of cleanup podcast. I had a lot of other things kind of floating around that I should have touched on Saturday, or we didn't get a chance to. This was the purpose for that. I do want to make sure I didn't miss any other super chats here tonight. I don't think I did. If I did, I will get to them next time. No, I'm not blocked by Disco Inferno, although I do think he's another one of those. His timeline matches every other one-dimensional douche that you see. Angry, insecure. Those are their two biggest attributes, angry and insecure. They have to brag about their car or their muscles or something like that. I'm like, fucking shut up. It's like what's that guy? What's that UFC guy that is it Andrew Tate or that fucking guy? You know what I'm talking about, right? Him. Like that type of like attitude. Taylor Swift is ruining football. Oh my God. Yeah. Cry more. Clout is a hell of a thing people will do stupid things for. Yeah, I kind of agree. See it all the time. No, I'm not blocked by Disco. I think I've yelled at him a time or two, but I guess it wasn't important enough for him to block me. But I also don't see his posts ever. I have a lot of people just like muted. I don't know they exist until something that they say comes up, and then other people are like dunking on them. And then I'm like, oh my God, I forgot all about that asshole. But they turn up when when they start getting shit. Oh, yeah, that's another good one, Ryan Adams. Liv Morgan. She should be another one that would probably, right, be back at the Rumble. I don't think she would win it, but I think it would be fun for her to return and get her little emotional moment there. She should come out with a big ass like bong and take a monster rip right before she comes to the ring. That would be sweet. I'd mark out. Thank you, Jordan Smith. Congratulations to the Lions. They got a big one coming up now next week. They got to face Tampa Bay. And then if they win that one, I think they're on to the NFC Championship, right? Either play San Francisco or Green Bay. So I'm not getting my hopes up. It's not even the conference finals yet. So I feel like the Lions are still the Lions. Everything they do now is just bonus because now they've won a playoff game for the first time since I was 14 years old in January of 92. I was about to turn 15 later that year, but that was last time they won a playoff game, I think was before Ric Flair won the Rumble in 1992. That's how long it's been. So thank you for that. Mike Witt, oh, don't worry about it. Nobody that I desire to give attention to, that's for sure. Just another fucking douchebag. Sonic Plays, good to see you. This is the Niners year. They are good, and I'm worried about them. But if they play the Lions, I'm going to be rooting against you, Sonic. Mandy Rose, I don't know if she could ever come back. We'll see. But anyway, right on. It is the top of the hour now, which means we have been going for 2 solid hours. So I think this is a good cutoff point. I want to thank you guys again for just hanging out with me tonight. It's pretty much all I wanted to do. I was like, there's a few things I want to talk about. I want to touch on Raw. I want to do a lot of discussion about the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, and mostly just hang out with you guys in the chat and see what you want to talk about. So I appreciate you hanging out with me this evening and looking forward to seeing you again this week. I will be setting up a Royal Rumble watch along for this Sunday. Just got to decide which one I'm going to do. Not sure yet. So stay tuned on social media and over here on YouTube because I do use the community tab a lot. So you can check for posts over there. If I get a time down for those Saturday night's main event watch-alongs to resume for the members, those will be members only. I'll put some links up this week as well. So you guys have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. I am working tomorrow, so I will not be home for Dynamite, but I will be eyeballing the results. And if anything crazy happens, we will mic drop it. Y'all have a